I never imagined that someone could file for divorce without the other person's knowledge or consent. I'd heard of such cases, but I always believed it was something that happened to other people, never to me. I used to feel relieved that I had married a man who wasn't wealthy or ill. That illusion shattered the day I received an email while lying in a hospital bed, weakened from an asthma attack triggered by the heartbreak of my husband's betrayal. Only after everything was finalized did I, now officially divorced as I had secretly wished for deep down, rush straight from the hospital to the bank the moment I was discharged, determined to make my cheating ex-husband, a supposedly elite banker, regret every choice he made. My name is Courtney. I'm a full-time handmade artisan, and for the past 6 years, I was married to Tom. We met as co-workers at the same bank and fell in love quickly. For years, we were genuinely happy. But around 6 months ago, cracks appeared. Tom started staying out late, became inseparable from his phone, and whenever it rang at home, he would step outside and talk in the car. Suspicious, I finally hired a private investigators. It cost a fortune, but I needed the truth. A month later, the report arrived. Tom was having an affair with Michelle, a young teller who worked at the same branch. She knew perfectly well he was married, yet she pursued him aggressively. The file contained photos of them checking into hotels, kissing in public, and laughing over romantic dinners. I couldn't let him go. I convinced myself it was just a temporary lapse, that he would come to his senses and choose me again. Desperate to win him back, I changed my hairstyle, started wearing makeup every day, cooked elaborate meals, and forced a smile no matter how much it hurt. None of it worked. He barely touched the food I prepared and grew more distant by the day. The stress was crushing me. One evening, I finally broke the silence. "You've been getting a lot of calls lately," I said gently. "Is work really that hectic?" He smirked. "You quit the bank after only 2 years to marry me, remember? You wouldn't understand. It's peak season. Meanwhile, you sit at home all day playing with crafts. Easy life, huh?" I was stunned. The Tom I married used to admire my creations and stay up with me when I worked late. He never mocked my income. "I take my work seriously," I answered, voice shaking. "It's not a hobby. I'm sure you make pocket money," he laughed coldly. "But let's be real, I pay more than half of every bill so you can live comfortably. A woman with no real earning power wouldn't need that. You'd be lost without me." The word divorce slipped out of my mouth before I could stop it. Tears poured down my face. He rolled his eyes, told me to stop being dramatic, and walked away. The next morning he refused to even look at me. I barely slept, cried without warning, and my lifelong asthma began flaring dangerously. I confided in my oldest friend, Sophia, a successful single real estate agent. Over coffee, I poured my heart out. "He's completely obsessed with her," I sobbed. "I don't know how to bring him back." "Do you still love him?" Sophia asked softly. "Do you truly want the old marriage back?" I nodded, ashamed. "Stupid, I know, but yes." Suddenly, a violent coughing fit hit me. My asthma had worsened dramatically under the stress. I reached for my inhaler, but the spasms were too strong. I collapsed. The last thing I remember is Sophia screaming for someone to call an ambulance. I woke up in the hospital. Sophia was sitting beside me, eyes red from crying. "You scared me to death," she whispered. The doctor explained I needed at least a week of inpatient treatment. Sophia bought me clothes, toiletries, filled out all the paperwork since I had arrived with nothing. I tried calling Tom, no answer. Sophia tried, still nothing. In the end, she helped me write a short email telling him I was hospitalized. At 1 a.m., his reply finally came. "If you're in the hospital, there's nothing I can do. I'm swamped with work. I won't visit." That single sentence destroyed the last fragment of hope I had been clinging to. I cried silently until sunrise. 2 more days passed. Tom never showed up. Sophia visited every evening after work, bringing books, snacks, and laughter, the only bright spot in those gray days. On the 3rd evening, I was feeling stronger. We were excitedly planning a celebration meal for the day I'd be discharged when a new email notification appeared. Subject line, "Glad I divorced a broke, sick woman." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. "You barely earn anything and now you're ill again without even having a real job. Pathetic. The marriage was a failure from the start. I've already submitted the divorce papers. Take care of yourself. Another message arrived seconds later with the signed divorce form attached. He had used the blank template we had prepared years ago just in case, filled in his part, and filed it unilaterally while I was unconscious in the hospital. I started laughing and crying at the same time. Sophia grabbed my shoulders, terrified. I handed her the phone. After reading, her face turned crimson with rage. "Courtney, I know you love him. I didn't want to say this, but it's time to let go. You cannot stay with a man this cruel." To her surprise, I smiled through the tears. "You're right. Deep down I knew it was over, but I was too scared to be the one to end it. He just did me a favor. The fear is gone. I'm ready." We hugged and laughed and cried together, and for the first time in months I felt free. Tom kept sending arrogant messages. "No assets to split, you own nothing and I'm keeping everything. The apartment is in my name, be out by the end of the month. I won't come home until you're gone, leave it clean." I showed Sophia and we laughed until we couldn't breathe. "Don't worry about housing," she said, grinning. "Your best friend happens to be one of the top agents in the city. I'll find you the perfect studio with great security and space for all your materials." She brought listings to my hospital bed every day. By the time I was discharged, we had already chosen the ideal place. Until the paperwork and inspection cleared, I stayed at her apartment. A few days later, former colleagues from the bank started texting me. Apparently Tom had told the entire branch that I was a lazy, hysterical wife who never cleaned, never contributed money, and spent everything on useless hobbies. The speed at which he painted himself the victim was almost impressive. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "You're not going to let him win the narrative, are you?" I grinned. "Not a chance. He had his fun. Now it's my turn." 2 days after leaving the hospital, Sophia drove me to the bank where Tom and his new girlfriend, now fiancée Michelle, still worked. I walked in calmly, took a number, and waited. When my turn came, I was deliberately called to Michelle's window. She greeted me with the standard polite smile. "Good morning, how can I help you today?" I smiled back sweetly and said, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear, "I'd like to close every single salary account belonging to my company's 800 employees, effective immediately." Gasps and whispers rippled through the hall. Tom, who had been at his desk in the back, whipped around, face draining of color. Michelle stammered, "E800 accounts?" "Yes, all of them. Here is the corporate documentation and authorization." I slid the thick folder across the counter. Tom rushed over. "Courtney, what the hell are you doing?" I looked at him coolly. "Exactly what I said. I own a handmade goods company. I'm the president and majority shareholder. I have been the entire time we were married. I simply never told you because you enjoyed mocking failed artists so much, and I didn't want to bruise your ego. Turns out I earn roughly 4 times your salary." Michelle's mouth hung open. She whispered, "You're the ex-wife?" "Correct. Please process the closures quickly." At that moment, the branch manager, Mr. Johnson, my former boss and mentor from when I worked there, walked out of his office. "Courtney, good to see you looking well." He smiled warmly, then noticed the scene. His expression hardened. "Why don't we continue this conversation upstairs? You two," he pointed at Tom and Michelle, "come with us." Upstairs in the private meeting room, Mr. Johnson listened quietly as I handed him the detective's report, hundreds of pages of photos, hotel receipts, text messages. Tom tried to interrupt with excuses. Michelle burst into theatrical tears, claiming she had only comforted him after I supposedly made his life miserable. Mr. Johnson silenced them both with one icy glare. "I trained Courtney myself. She was the most meticulous, responsible employee I ever had. She brought homemade lunch every single day, kept her desk spotless, and never once raised her voice. So this story about a lazy, hysterical wife who doesn't clean or cook, absolute nonsense." He turned the pages slowly, face growing darker with every photograph. Finally, he closed the file. "An affair is bad enough. Conducting it with a subordinate, lying to the entire branch, and then causing the bank to lose 800 corporate salary accounts, one of our largest relationships, because of your personal recklessness. You leave me no choice." Within a week, Both Tom and Michelle were fired for gross misconduct. They quickly burned through savings. Michelle left him. Tom began sending me pathetic messages begging to get back together, promising he had learned his lesson. I forwarded everyone to Sophia so we could laugh over wine. I sued for appropriate settlement and emotional damages. Because the company had always been solely in my name and founded before the marriage, he received nothing, not 1 cent. Looking back, the whole ordeal was painful, but the freedom on the other side is indescribable. I have money, peace, supportive friends, and a thriving business. Sometimes I almost wish I had left sooner. Life is too short to waste on people who don't value you. From now on, I choose me.